This episode of Nos Arietes is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based wine retailer and proud sponsor of Nos Arietes since 2011. Full Pull was founded in 2009, is based in Seattle, and is owned and operated by longtime Sounders supporters. They offer the best boutique wines of the world to members of their mailing list, with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest.
Hi, I'm Will Bruin, and I was just recognized as a Seattle Sounders legend. Now I get to do voice reads for the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network.
Here we go. Come on! Hey, O'Shan! Let's go!
Save by Fry! The Seattle Sounders have done it! MLS Cup winners!
Here comes Reyes through the middle to crown it for Seattle! And now they truly can start the celebrations. It's the Sounders MLS Cup.
Niko Moreno leaves absolutely no doubt! The Sounders rule the region! Seattle Sounders is champion! They've scored! They've scored! Finally!
This feels fucking awesome.
This is a tiny dog.
Nice work on your little yacht thing.
Porteous says cheated.
You know, what was the thought process in terms of who you decided to use and who you didn't?
Ever since Sounder Hart wrote a commentary that we didn't take World Cup seriously.
Welcome back to another episode of Nos Arietes. I am Jeremiah Shan, joined as always on Fridays by Niko Moreno with what we learned this week with Niko, part of the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network. We are here at Long Acres. We just had a very long day at Long Acres. It is 2 o'clock. We're usually done 2 hours ago here, but they had a little special joint press conference-y thing with the Reign to sort of mark the beginning of their season. And we didn't just get both Reign players. We got a Reign player. We got Jesus Ferreira and Jordan Heidema from the Reign. We got Laura Harvey and Brian Schmitzer. And then we also had the Sounders sort of like front office, or not front office, but ownership with Adrian Hanauer, Hugh Weber, and Maya Mendoza Ekstrom. But Niko, I've talked a lot without you saying anything. I should have given you a chance to say something. How are you?
Hey man, you are the guy who starts it off, man. You know, I'm just playing off of your vibe, man. You know, I'm like the point guard. You know, you the shooting guard. That's the way we run it, man. But no, I'm excited to be here as always. It was a long day, and I think that might be part of
getting your head straight.
You know, we're just trying to kind of get it together. A lot of information, all that I don't know if we'll be able to necessarily reflect upon in today's episode because it is so much, and I think we're gonna all go back and listen to some video, get some questions. But I feel like we all got, at least I feel like I asked the question that I wanted to ask.
So did I, yeah.
And so did you, and that provides good content for our audience. And plus, we got LAFC coming to town.
Oh, man.
And a second leg at Cruz Azul that's do or die. So, man, there's plenty to talk about.
There's no shortage of things to talk about. But I think broad strokes, let's just open with this joint presser. And I think, for me, the broad strokes of this was sort of just opening the season in a way that said we are one organization. We want to find more ways to shed light and sort of bring people into the Seattle Reign, that they do want to really put forward a image that this is a different era, that this is a one unified era. And I must say the symbolism of doing this right now, when so much of our world right now is divided and sort of like diminishing this type of joint effort where we're elevating women's sports to be on an even playing field as men's sports, it is kind of like, I don't know, they were trying to steer clear, I think, of political stuff, but that wasn't lost on me. I think it's kind of neat that, I like to see this. It was kind of there was some imagery there that I thought was relevant and useful. I don't know. I thought it was I don't know how much news came out of this, but it was a neat gesture and a interesting sort of like introduction.
Yeah, and look, people might say that, at times this could sound as people always say the right things when they're on stage and when it's prepared and when there's an event. But to me, I feel like there was a lot of genuine sentiment in terms of community, developing soccer within the region, both in the women soccer and the guys soccer. I thought it was cool that Adrian shared with us that there's potential to start sharing some of the facilities, training together with the Reign. So there's definitely a big intent to unite both of the franchises. It seems like the Reign, for the long term, at least the way Adrian put it, was a multi-year contract at Starfire. They'll continue to be there, but there is some sort of, I don't know if a plan, but maybe a possibility that in the future everybody's here. And
they definitely left open that possibility. They like, by no means were they going out of their way to say that's not going to happen. He also brought up the possibility of the Reign being in a whole different community, not part of the greater Seattle area, but as a sort of putting their footprint somewhere else, which I thought was interesting. It was the first time I'd ever heard that possibility as well. But the thing that struck me was this idea that, Laura Harvey was at the game, I guess was it on Wednesday that it wasn't clear exactly what game she went to, but she was at a game. There was some photos of her actually on the bench, which I guess was pregame. But then during the game, she sat in the booth with Henry Browner, I believe, and Freddie Juarez, and sort of did the in-game and was like giving her opinions on what was happening. And that's a level of intimacy. I guess that she also did that for the Montreal game last year that the Sounders won 5-0. But that's a level of intimacy that I don't think you're seeing in most of these joint efforts.
No, absolutely not. And you could tell that she was very careful about saying, hey, you know what, if somebody asks my opinion, sometimes I'll say, sometimes I won't, right? I mean, I don't think she wants to step over anybody, and it is so intimate. That's exactly why she was so careful with what she said. But it's an interesting approach, and if anything, it does show that Adrian Hanauer, and the question was asked about whether there was a possibility of the Reign leaving if another owner came on. It really does seem like he's doing his best effort to keep both clubs very united, very entwined.
And I thought it was interesting that Brian seems to embrace he seems to really like Laura from on a personal. He seemed very thrilled to be on the stage with her and sort of to be sharing, to be able to bounce ideas off her and him. And he's even saying there's things I think I can learn from them, which again, it's all words, I suppose, on some level, but they're not words that they have to say. No one's making them say these things.
We might need to bring her along for bad post-game press conferences.
Exactly.
That she'll keep him happy, right? Maybe
this is the best movie he's been in a post or in a press conference with us for a while. But I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I don't think I have a lot more to say about it right now, but I thought it was symbolically useful and interesting, and I don't know. I will be curious to see how this evolves over time. I don't know that we'll do this a lot. I don't know if there's a lot of usefulness in doing this all the time. But again, that was part of what I thought was interesting about it, is that it wasn't really there was no reason to do it other than to make the public gesture.
Yeah. And I think they want to engage more media, more coverage.
Yeah.
That was brought up in the past, and now I've never really done it consistently, but I had asked in the past, and it seemed like it was a little bit more difficult to talk to players than I initially thought, maybe a couple of years ago. Don't know if that's changed any.
No, I think it was for sure. It was true for a long time.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I think today. That's kind of cool that they were able to bring us on. I think they want to provide this openness so more people come to cover, and I think that's all valuable. I don't understand why a team would close those doors or make it difficult, right? I mean, it's odd. One thing that did catch my attention, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but because you asked the question, but Adrian talked a whole lot about having a soccer-only stadium and how the smell of the field and the feel of the stadium when it's, he's gone to all of these places around the world where soccer-specific stadiums are so important. And I think we all agree with it. But I don't know, how much and obviously he talked about how difficult it is, but I don't know how much urgency there is to get that done. That always wasn't talked about today, necessarily, but just your take on that.
I mean, I think it is interesting because they have a lease at Lumen Field, I believe, until 2032. So that's 7 years away from now. That's a long way away. So even if they decided that they were going to build this facility, chances are it's not going to be open until 2033 at the earliest. Mm-hmm. And that is and this is sort of the question I asked was about bridging the gap between, let's even assume best case scenario that they have decided that's what they're going to, or not best case scenario, but let's just say they decided what to do. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of time between now and then, and they can't afford to just punt on making things better at Lumen Field. And that's sort of what my question was about, is like, how do you let's assume for a second that you have made that decision. You're going to have to find a way to continue to build your fan base and to keep people happy and to keep people, because people aren't going to just buy season tickets in 2025 because they want season tickets in 2033. That's not how it works. People don't think that way, nor should they. And so there's a lot of work, I think, to be done. And they did talk a lot about improving the environment and the sort of concourse experience at Lumen Field in the meantime. I noticed they didn't have a lot of details in that way.
They did not.
And I think that's one of the things that concerns me. They talk about wanting to do it, and like Adrian said, well, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of grinding. Okay, but what does that actually look like? We don't know. Because I don't know. I don't get the sense that that's been dramatically improved since last year. So I think they do have a lot of work. It's good to hear them acknowledge that they have work to do, but I think there's a big question as to what that work actually looks like.
And that's kind of what I was getting into. I can hear Adrian trying to be very mindful about indicating his desire to do it, but there was not really a plan or an idea.
No, there was no
or anything like that. I was even going to, during my question, kind of put them in the category of Cruz Azul, where they were like, man, we're just done. Let's just cut it here. We'll go figure it out, but we just need to move on from here. And they kind of pushed themselves out of that comfort zone of being there, but it wasn't the stage for it, so I didn't go there. But that's kind of what I want to see. Like, how much are the Seattle Sounders and Adrian Hanauer be willing to be uncomfortable or make a push to do something before that timeline? Or, I'm sure that if they talk to Lumen, I mean, we're talking about scheduling conflicts that might be coming up, they might not be coming up. So if you, as an owner, have that desire, sometimes it's just pushing yourself. That should be priority number one. Let's sit down, let's talk the numbers, let's figure out how to get that done. And that's what I don't see.
I don't either, and it'll be interesting, right now coming up, if the Sounders advance, all you have to do is look at the schedule of Lumen Field, and there is the dates of the first leg of the quarterfinal, assuming they get there, are filled. There is no way at all that the Sounders can host the first leg of the CCC quarterfinals, because there is a monster truck rally and a dirt bike race. Mm-hmm. That is out of the question. That's not something that you would have happen, presumably, if you controlled your own facility. And that is, and so we don't know what's going to happen if they end up hosting that. The Sounders have not announced anything. They have not actually even acknowledged publicly that they can't play. Why would they, right? Because they're not there. Point. There's no reason. But it is an interesting situation, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And we're not going to, but this is all stuff that's going on. And, for all their talk, I don't know that their relationship with First and Goal, who controls Lumen, has gotten any better. It seems like it's gotten worse every year. Even though between the Sounders and Reign, they are by far the most, they play the most of, they hold the most events there of anyone without even question. I mean, between the two of them, they host twice as many events there, more than twice as many events than the Hawks.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I thought it was an interesting point. I think that is something that a lot of the fan base is consistently harping on. So, I thought it was good. In a lesser scale, there wasn't really much clarity, and I don't want to get too much into it, but I did want to mention it. I just asked about Club World Cup. It sounds like there isn't really a lot of clarity in terms of like how much sales they've been done. It didn't seem like Hugh was, trying to talk about it. I had a real curiosity about what it looked like early, and maybe not even that early. right now.
I mean, we're not at this point. We're a few months away.
Yeah.
I did see today, I think, that the club seats finally went on sale for the Sounders games, and I think I saw that they're $600 a piece.
Ouch.
$600 a piece. I mean, that's a pretty penny.
Yeah,
that's a pretty penny. So it'll be interesting. I have heard rumors that more inventory is supposed to come online that's in the lower bowl. We'll see what happens there.
That might be why Adrian was very clear about saying prices are not on me. Prices are not on me.
And you, I think it was you who asked about the reports of the payday, the participation payday. The latest reports were that the European teams at least are expecting to be guaranteed between 12 and 16 million. I don't know that the Sounders would reasonably expect that much, but there's going to be millions of dollars, which would presumably pay for at least a transfer fee or two if they wanted to do that. So I don't know. These are all things that are going to be interesting. We didn't get a lot of clarity on any of it today.
No, not at all.
But
that was literally quoted. Like, that's literally, there's not a lot of clarity. Not a lot of clarity. There's not a lot of clarity.
Yeah, exactly.
And also in terms of like where the money was going to be used, as I think most people should know and understand, there's probably not all of it's going to go into a player. Not all of it's going to go into a transfer fee. Adrian talked about, the developing of youth players.
There are all kinds of things.
All kinds of things that you need to kind of come about. But again, these are just things that I hear you guys talk about, comment, question, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, and I think it was a good question, and it was good for him to at least go on the record. And I mean, he did imply that some of it would be used on transfer fees. He definitely said that it would all be reinvested back into the club. So that
is true.
We'll see what form that actually takes. But talking about, we got a lot of stuff going on the field. We should probably talk about that as well. We had the game against Cruz Azul. I felt like the Sounders were the better team. They created the better chances. Admittedly, against a shorthanded Cruz Azul, who still, I thought, looked pretty good, which weirdly gives me more confidence because it wasn't like they came in and just were parking the bus and said, "Oh, hit us with your best shot," and the Sounders couldn't land the punch. It was more that the Sounders took their chances and it didn't quite go out. But Cruz Azul came to play. I actually was pretty impressed with Cruz Azul's play. I don't know what, and I do think that going into the second leg, knowing that all you need is a road goal to get the tiebreaker is helpful. Not exactly the result the Sounders would want, but I was not as discouraged by how they played than it felt like maybe some of the discourse around it was.
And that's kind of it, right? I mean, look, there are no two ways to look at it. This was a missed opportunity because of the end result. Did they play well? Absolutely. And that might even be more frustrating for the coaching staff, for the fan base. The players themselves have to be frustrated that they had every chance to win this game. They did all the right things.
Hit the post
intensity was there.
Yes.
Physicality was there.
Yes.
The movement was there. The chances.
Yes.
Look, Jordan, he does so much work. He gets himself in such good positions. In this one, he did. But he has to finish those two chances. At least. There's one in the first half, and then there's one in the second where he hits the post.
I actually thought that one was a better... More difficult finish. He had a header and a breakaway in the first half that I thought were, from a just pure chance quality perspective, maybe a little bit better. I actually was it would have been a huge goal for him to get that one, but he actually hit that from a pretty tight angle with his left foot. He beats the goalkeeper and gets a little unlucky that it hits off the inside of the post and stays out. But he was not on the ball a lot, but this was sort of a classic Jordan game where he did a lot of work.
He did.
But it wasn't showing up in a lot of touches.
And that's exactly why that position is so difficult and why sometimes the criticism is valid in a certain way because you expect your guy to finish those moments when he doesn't touch it that many times because that's what he comes.
That's what he's there for.
That's what the role is, right? That's what the role is. So there's the goal that was taken back because of the offside. That was very thin line.
Yeah.
It sucks because Pedro was so excited.
Oh, man.
He looked like a kid.
I feel so bad when I see him because I see the flag go up and then I see him running off in the other direction and I'm just like, oh, that sucks. That sucks. And it was a good finish.
It was a good finish.
He hits it between three defenders. He's kind of shrugging off the goalkeeper who is literally pulling on him. I would like to think he gains some. It continues his confidence. He has looked much more confident this year, but it was a shame that it didn't count because it was a good goal, and the replays were at best inconclusive that it was offside. I think if it had been called onside, there's no way at all that it would have been overturned.
I thought he played very well. I thought that he was.
I thought he was good too.
I thought he was good on the ball. His half turns. He was a special guy on the ball. I was surprised that Brian took him off. I thought that maybe Jordan was going to be that guy that was going to come off just because he's played so many minutes, started every single game. He looked a little bit exhausted. Maybe Paul would have been someone that you could take off and see if all these four pieces combined together. What I will say is that Pedro coming off the field, although upset, clearly he wanted to stay on, which is normal. It happens all the time. There's nothing crazy about it.
Sure.
But I've been encouraged by how much he wants to just be there and make a difference and play and all of those things. I was speaking to somebody off the record of Mike's from Cruz Azul, and he's like, man, we were just excited that he came off.
Well, it was an interesting thing because we've been talking about this a lot. We talked about it today with Brian. We talked about it with Jesus as well. About there is essentially what Brian definitely he said in as many words. We have four players: Jordan, Jesus, Pedro, and Albert, who are essentially we see filling three spots, and that sub was a pretty clear illustration of that mentality where he comes off where Jesus replaces Pedro. Now, in hindsight, maybe not even in hindsight, I think you probably said this in real time, that it would have maybe been nice to see him replace Arriola, because Arriola ended up coming off about 10 minutes later. And it would be one thing if you're like, look, we feel like it's very, very important for Arriola to be out there to bring cohesion to this whole formation. That's a valid point. But if you're going to pull him off in 10 minutes, why not just let them see how the four of them look together? Because we have not seen them all four on the field, I don't think, even in preseason.
Thank you for listening to the Sounder at Heart Podcast Network, which now includes No Sarietes, Lobbing Scorchers, and the Cooler Guild. We've been independent since August of 2023, but need your support to make sure it continues. Although this podcast is free, it's only made possible by your continued support. Memberships start as low as $25 a year, which not only helps make podcasts like this one happen, but also gets you access to everything we produce. If you're able to support us at higher levels, starting at $75 a year, you gain access to a host of other perks, most notably entry into our members-only Discord, where the smartest, funniest, and most engaged commenters share their thoughts and ideas. To find out more, just visit sounderatheart.com and click the subscribe button in the top right corner. Thanks for listening.
It's getting to be that time of year when you need to figure out how to watch Sounders games. If you're an Alliance member, you are getting a free subscription to MLS Season Pass, and you're covered. Similarly, if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, you're also covered. But if you're going to have to pay for one, you may as well give us some of that money. By using the link sounderatheart.com/MLS Season Pass, you'll help support independent media while also getting access to every Sounders game, every other MLS game, MLS 360, and all sorts of other content. Just to make things extra easy, we'll put a link in the show notes too. Thanks. No Sarietes, admittedly, is not exactly known for our spicy takes, but that doesn't mean we want our food to be mild. Spice up your life with Hacks and Ferments. Handcrafted in Georgetown and made with the best local ingredients from across the Pacific Northwest, they specialize in unique small batch fermented hot sauces and vinegars. Hacks and Ferments brings bold flavors and natural fermentation together for something truly special. Whether you're a heat seeker or just looking to elevate your cooking, you'll find something you love at hacksandferments.com. That's HAXANFERMENTS.com. And right now, if you use the code SOUNDERATHEART, that's all one word, at checkout, you will get a free hot sauce with your order. Again, go to hacksandferments.com, use the code SOUNDERATHEART at checkout for a free hot sauce with your order. Hacks and Ferments is a proud sponsor of the Sounder at Heart podcast network.
Not all four. Not with Albert.
Right.
There's always been one.
Right. We've seen various combinations of the three of them, both with Jesus up top. We've seen combinations with them. But I would have really liked to have seen what that looked like, just because I don't think Pedro clearly wasn't ready to come off. I'm sure had a few more, you could have gone, even if it was only 10 minutes, just to see him on the field, play a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen it. And it's a little bit of a missed opportunity in that sense. And I don't know when we're going to see the four of them. Brian sort of talked about, well, once, maybe after the Cruz Azul game, we get into a month or so of more regular game patterns.
No, I mean, I thought that he is very clear that this is the design. I mean,
he was very clear.
He said, you cracked the code. I got to give you credit because I had been scratching my head about this since the game against Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
And then me and you talked this morning. You kind of put it perfectly. That's the way I asked it. And that's kind of the way he said, yes, that's what I'm planning on.
Right.
And I get it because of the rotations right now and how things are working out. But I would like to see how it works at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I think it's fair for Brian to take the position. We're not in a rush to make this happen.
Correct.
But why not see I understand you don't want to play 90 minutes like that. I can understand why you don't want to play 70 minutes, but 10, 15 minutes just to sort of get a sense of what that might look like, especially in a game like that where you were chasing a goal. They felt like they needed to score, and they weren't as effective after Pedro came off.
They were not. They were missing his spark. They were missing his ability to beat lines with the ball and just take guys on. And again, like I said, they were worried about it. You could see them shift on that side where Pedro was playing. So the depth's still there. I feel like a lot of it goes, well, it's more depth and more things, but you still got Paul Arriola coming off the bench, essentially, or Georgie, or Paul Rothrock.
They've got depth either way.
Yeah. So those are the things, or the other thing that I asked you or I mentioned to you was that maybe you could have seen how Ferreira would have done up top, because I don't know how much more you can play Jordan consistently, and Danny Masowski, bless his heart and the effort he puts in. It's just difficult to see him as a guy that you can trust.
He's not giving us a lot of reason to trust him right now, although who knows, maybe we'll see. I do think he's going to have to play some against LAFC, just because the thing that's so tough about the second leg is that it's 2 days, it's one less day of rest. The game's on Tuesday. They got to fly to Mexico City. Luckily, the game is early enough on Saturday. Well, maybe they get to rest a little bit, but my assumption is, I guess they're going to train here. Will they get Sunday off? I don't know, but they're probably going to travel on Monday and then be in Cruz Azul and probably train that evening in
I thought they were flying out on Sunday.
Are they? That would make more sense.
I had heard that they were going to
That makes
fly
more
on
sense.
Sunday, yeah.
Okay, so that makes more sense. So they'll fly it on Sunday. They probably won't train on Sunday, but they'll fly on Sunday, and then they'll have all day Monday. That makes sense. But that's not an easy trip. It's a 4 or 5 hour flight. It's like flying across the country.
It is. The good things are this, right? You said it. Not conceding an away goal is huge. I could argue, and I don't think anybody could argue otherwise, that out of all the MLS teams in this competition, they gave themselves the best chance. Why?
Yes.
Because of that away goal.
Yeah.
Cincinnati couldn't do it. LA Galaxy definitely didn't do it.
No.
They lost, with Herediano at Herediano. Vancouver couldn't do it. They gave up a goal. So because of that, ironically, we're upset. And we'll talk about ironic because I want to give you guys the other side of why not being happy with this result seems maybe even outrageous to some people. But yes, Seattle gave themselves the best chance. Now,
I just want to add, I think it is kind of, the funny thing about that is that I would imagine most fans would feel better about a 1-1 tie, but from a practical perspective, 0-0 is absolutely, undeniably the better result.
Absolutely. I mean, it's spot on. Because any goal draw puts you through. 1-1, 2-2, you go through, right? And 0-0, obviously, you go to PKs, but you're giving yourself a better chance.
Scoring, if the Sounders score first, it is effectively a
2-goal.
It's essentially 2 goals.
Yep. So that puts you in a good position. Now, I've heard a lot of people, and I've heard fans, and I've heard some of our friends at Thunder Heart say, well, Cruz Azul, they're probably happy with this result, as anybody would, right?
Right, yeah.
But you'd be wrong. I mean, you would be absolutely wrong. From the moment that me and Jeremiah were sitting at the press conference and Vicente Sanchez, interim head coach for Cruz Azul, was getting drilled about how he could possibly have drawn on the road without 6 players was insane.
Yeah, he was getting lit up by. To give you a little insight, so the way that the press conference worked is they had a Zoom press conference where all of us media were in person, but there was all this Mexican media that was zooming in. And the first 4 questions all came from Zoom, which was the first time I've ever had that experience. But all of them were lighting him up. Like, how could you not get a result here? They didn't want to hear any excuses. They didn't want to hear anything about and because I thought Sanchez would come in sort of like, yeah, we got it. This is exactly let's put it this way. If Brian Schmetzer goes 0-0 at Cruz Azul in the first leg, his attitude is, nope, we got it. Exactly what we wanted. All we have to do is go home and win.
You remember his grin in the 2-2?
Oh, my God.
Against Pumas at the Estadio Olímpico?
Yeah.
He was grinning. Him and Niko were just like...
We won the series.
And that's the crazy part. So I did want to put that out there because the talking point in Mexican media right now is, how do we get rid of Vicente Sanchez, who's lost 1 game out of 9,
right.
who is the interim head coach that took the job in week 2?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insanity, but that's just the way it's kind of built out. So I wanted to put that out there because I feel like people were talking about that consistently.
And they have a big game coming up that's part of it, right?
Yes.
They have a big game against Monterrey coming up this weekend, and that is a much bigger game in their mind than this game was, or the next leg is. I think the way that, Siggy Smid once talked about this, and then he didn't coach this way necessarily, but he was very clear. I am never going to get fired for going out in the Open Cup or not doing well in Champions League. I will get fired if I don't do well in league play. And I think that's very much the attitude that Vicente Sanchez probably has, which is, look, we might beat Sounders, we might lose to Sounders, but that's not going to cost me my job. What will cost me my job if the league season falls apart?
Is if I go get blown out by Monterrey,
Exactly.
I mean, it's going to be outrageous.
I mean, if he gets blown out, he might not be the coach on Tuesday.
Exactly, because it's that serious. So I think Monterrey was a main reason why, now that we have all the context, obviously there were 6 players that they felt like they were fitness. They had fitness in risk, where they could overload a muscle, where they could have an injury, and the best way to handle it, especially if they were going to play against Monterrey, which I'm curious to see what team he puts out against Monterrey, and if he's just going to rotate for that CONCACAF game at home, or if he just has people just double down, which I think that's what's going to happen. He might double down
that's what I would
with most
suspect.
players.
I mean, it is for them too. A 2-day turnaround isn't, even though you're at home, it's not is the Monterrey game at home or is that on the road?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
that's a good question. But either way.
Either way, it's
right
better not having to travel internationally for that.
And you're
one.
talking about no rest necessarily when you practice. I mean,
there's
it's a Tuesday game.
There's not going to be They're not going to be training for serious or real training, but it's and the thing was that Monterrey Cruz Azul was missing mostly offensive players. They were missing their 4 leading scorers over this 24-25 season, but defensively, they were stout. I mean, they had 2 center backs who were great. They saved 2 or 3 goals.
Man, I talked about Willer Ardita, and maybe I did not do him justice. I mean, he was my guy to watch in that defense, and he was a boss on his side.
Yeah, he was.
Not just defensively and physically, but on the ball. So sharp, able to just take pressure off him. There were times where Seattle got some pressure, and the way they passed the ball, and we talked about this in the pregame show, they were very good at just passing through some of the pressure points, and those center backs had a lot to do with it. What I say about Kevin Muir, dude is bananas, right? I mean, he's as excited as he gets with the goalkeeper. Most of you guys maybe do not know who Rene Higuita is. If you don't, hit it up on YouTube, Rene, R-N-E, Higuita, and you'll just be amazed with the highlights. But that's the sort of crazy, just on the field, I'm going to take you on. The whole, goal that Pedro got was half his fault. He should have just cleared it, but he's trying to shake people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that was the part of what killed me about that goal not counting is that we finally beat, because he was doing that all the time where he was coming. I mean, he came way off his line to head a ball out, or I guess he kind of rainbowed Jordan one time. And it was just all kinds of crazy stuff. He was constantly, it's funny because he would come up almost like a third center back and be ready and be part of the possession.
Sweeper.
Exactly. It was an interesting display. We don't see it a lot in MLS, almost never, and it was kind of neat to see. It would have been nice if the Sounders could have taken a little bit more advantage of it. I don't know. Maybe they can actually take more advantage of it because I would imagine he's going to be even more aggressive at Cruz Azul. So it'll be. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm intrigued by this. But before we get that second leg, we have LAFC on Saturday. Apple or Fox is going to be broadcasting this game. It's not quite the national TV broadcast that they do where Weeby and everyone else is here, but Jake Zivin and Taylor Twellman will be calling the game. This is a big game for the Sounders, and it comes at a time when LAFC seems to have once again remade their roster with no real drop-off. They are, I think, 5-0 in all competitions right now.
Yeah.
And they look they haven't been scoring a ton, but they just scored 3 against Columbus. And before that, they had been struggling to score, but I don't think they've given up a goal yet this year.
Not that I can think of, no. Oh, against, no, they didn't. No, they have not. This is they're a tough team. I think Minnesota got close. They should have been ahead in the score, but they didn't.
Exactly.
But look, this franchise, it's I don't know, all on its own. In Spanish, we have this thing about not reinventing the wheel when it comes to soccer, your team, your franchise, and it seems like they just.
Sorry, I should correct myself. They are 4-1. I forgot they lost the first Champions Cup game to Colorado.
Oh, that was the one.
They're on a 4-game winning streak.
There you go. That was the one.
But yeah, they've not given up a goal in the last 4. So.
Yeah, well, there you go. So, but this team, not as star-studded as in the past.
No.
They kind of have more MLS veterans of some sort, if you will. I think Ibobosi has been really good. I feel like he gives them the best attributes of what Cherundolo likes in terms of pressure and trigger points and effort and running off the ball. He's been, he already got a goal.
Yeah. Marquis Delgado was another player
Marquis
they brought
Delgado
in.
has been really good. He's been really good. He's the guy from LA Galaxy that they let go. They're missing him now, and he's been a guy that really controls that midfield recently. Tillman gives you a little bit more dynamism. He gives you a little bit of a guy that can get forward, hit you with some mid-range shots. So this is a good team. I'm very curious of what the lineup will look for the Seattle Sounders, but not an easy game.
Not an easy game at all. It will be interesting to see. I mean, LAFC comes in able to rest. Their rotation situation is a little different. They played a day earlier, and they have, although they do play also on Tuesday, but they have one more day of rest coming into this one, so they might not have to rotate quite as much. We'll see.
Cherundolo known for rotating his squad.
He is not.
I mean, I've seen him go with a full lineup, add Las Vegas Lights, and then play the team all over again. So
I will say, this is their first road game since the Rapids Champions Cup game. So I don't know. Maybe that's good for the Sounders. I don't know if that the Sounders have not beaten LAFC at home in a very long time. I'm trying to remember. I think it was the 2020 playoffs. The last time they beat LAFC at home.
Yep.
It's been a bit.
I called the draw on our Thursday show. I hit it off on the Charlotte, maybe in an unusual way, when I said it was going to be a draw. I feel like this one is similar. I feel like a draw, might be a decent score line. I saw your players to watch, and I did not see La Joya Martinez. I will tell you that guy is a handful.
Yeah,
young Venezuelan.
And people have been very excited about him ever since they picked him up, and he didn't play a lot last year, but he has been given a much bigger role this year, and he's been very good.
He's cut inside. he's very much of the game. I'm not saying he's Buanga. I'm just saying that he likes to do a lot of Buanga-ish things, right? That cut inside, that curl to the far corner of the goal.
And
he's shifty, good on the ball.
An opposite inverted winger.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And he's very creative on the ball. He's going to give you a little back heel. He's going to, rainbow you the way maybe Brian doesn't like it. This kid is, it's a handful, and that's a guy I'm going to be really looking for. Delgado's another guy that I thought. And of course, anytime that LA stays here, know where Hollingshead is at?
You know where Hollingshead is?
Let's put a bell on him or something that you know where he's at all times, because he tends to disappear and appear in front of goal.
He sure does. Of course, Denny Buanga is a terror.
Yeah,
an absolute terror. Coming off of a 2-goal game in Champions Cup on Tuesday. He has been very good again. So the Sounders have their hands full. I am not at the point where I am panicking at all, sort of about their league form. They didn't look. I guess we could talk a little bit about it. I didn't think they looked awful against RSL. They weren't good, but I think sometimes I feel like the reactions to that loss were maybe a little over the top. But it would be nice to get a good result here, because I think there is a growing frustration about their inability to beat. Brian said it. The reality is that they've only beaten Antigua so far, and not to take anything away from the Guatemalan League, but it is not MLS.
No.
And I think that's good to sort of understand that, to appreciate that this is a chance to, if you're going to be competitive in MLS, these are the kind of games you need to be competitive in. You need to be able to win these games. And yes, it's going to be a rotated lineup, but should be enough talent. The Sounders should have enough talent where they can hang. I wouldn't say I am super confident, but I'm not pessimistic either about this one.
And for what it's worth, yes, they're coming from a very good game against Columbus, but before that,
they hadn't looked that great.
Very uninspiring. They obviously play against the ball. They don't necessarily need to possess. They're just looking for that direct.
They had won
play.
3 straight 1-0 games. Their defense looks very good. Their offense, up until Columbus, was not looking particularly good. They'd only scored 4 goals through their first 4 games. So I don't know. This is not a juggernaut team. It is a team that knows how to get results.
Has gotten results.
That's gotten results.
Mm-hmm. Knows and has gotten.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I feel like this is an opportunity for that depth that we've been praising to actually come out and play.
Yeah.
If they get a win, I think would be huge. If they get a draw, I feel like it'd be a decent result. That rotation is something that we're all going to be looking for, because there's no doubt in my mind that your best team has to come out against Cruz Azul. I'm very curious if Ferreira starts tomorrow or if he starts Tuesday.
I think he'll start this game. I'm more curious what position he starts in. Because he's been used almost exclusively as a sort of a wing. He actually was playing more of a winger on Wednesday than he had really been before, but he's been playing underneath the striker one way or the other. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. There's been a lot. It's funny. He's been an interesting player because I think there's a lot of frustration around him, and it's from 2 different camps. Who I think folks like you who are more frustrated with how he's being used, which I think is fair. Mm-hmm. And I've also been surprised how many people were frustrated with his play. I thought he looked good.
I don't understand.
I thought he's looked good. He's very much more creative of a passer than I think I anticipated.
Yep.
I'd like to see him score some goals, but where he's played a handful of games, I'm not stressing that.
I think he's poised on the ball. I think his IQ and vision
very good
are excellent. I don't think people realize how good it is, because honestly, minutes have been limited. And
he's also a good counterpresser.
Very good counterpresser. We talked about the repress and the way he does that well. Not the fastest guy that you might see, but his explosiveness to get from point A to point B is pretty good. I think he has a great understanding of spacing, and that's been evident. So I like that. And my guess is that if he's playing those inside channels, then Arriola is going to be on that left side, because they've consistently been playing with Pedro on the other side. So if Pedro does start, it's going to be a game where a lot of things that we've been wanting to see from Ferreira need to come out. This LAFC team, as much as they haven't been scored on, I look at the back line, and I mean, I'm not, it's not like when they had Murillo and Chanot and Long. I mean, this is different. It's not those three monsters back there. No disrespect to Marlon, good player, but he's just not a guy that I'm like, man, you got to watch out for that guy. Right. So there's opportunities there. Seattle at home need to come out swinging. If there's something that's been
an early goal would be a very nice treat.
I feel like Seattle's always had, and people told me online that, that's just their MO. The second half is always the better half. But I mean, in this one, I feel like they should come out swinging. They should come out and really dictate the tempo right off the bat.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. All right, well, Niko, thank you for doing this. I think we both have things we need to get to today. It's already getting late in the day. But Niko Moreno, you can see him on Blue Sky, El Rolo, NW. You can find him on Pulso Sports YouTube page. And, of course, you can read him on Sounder at Heart and hear him on Lobbing Scorchers as well as this podcast. So thank you, Niko, for doing this.
No, thank you, man. Thank you to everybody. TL 2015, loved your comment. I really appreciate your thoughts on Brian's critique, and then the fact that, and I'm going to have a shameless plug here. Thank you for watching our Thursday show on Soccer Down Here. She says she likes it, or he says he likes it. I really appreciate it, and
on Lobbing Scorches, you mean?
No, this one's
for Soccer Down Here.
I think this one's for Thursdays. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
That's right. You're doing Mondays on Lobbing Scorches.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I got confused.
Yeah. So.
Forgot you're still doing Soccer Down Here.
Yep. Soccer Down Here as well. Yeah. So we're trying to get out there. So I really appreciate everybody commenting and helping us out. Glad you guys enjoy it. So in this one, comment more. Let us know what you guys like, and thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, I'm Jeremiah Shan. This is No Sadietes, part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network, and we will catch you next time.
We love you. Let's win another one!